Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today got another Autobomber build for you, and this one's absolutely mad, and by mad I mean we're using the MAD Alchemist Ladle, applying just tons and tons of ailments to get a ton more spell damage from our weapon. Now this was recommended to me to play from Lizard IRL to try out the Ladle on my Autobomber build. I tried it, absolutely liked it right off the bat. We are doing 2 to 3 times as much damage as we were doing before, and that's because of just how many negative ailments that you're able to apply, and that's a different negative ailments that you can apply as a Void Knight. They have access to just about everything that's in the game. You're going to have Doom, Chill, Slow, Frailty, Armor Shred, Lightning Res Shred, Void Res Shred, Bleed, Ignite, Poison, Spreading Flames, Electrify, Shock, Time Rot, Future Strikes, and Blind. And there's even a couple more shreds you can get if you really want to switch your blessings around, but I didn't want to sacrifice the survivability and the leech and the armor that we get from some of our blessings, so I didn't go to the pure min-max of how many different elements you can have, but we do have 16 of them on this build, giving us 160% more damage from the weapon itself. And because we get all of our base damage from stacking Vitality in this build, we don't lose too much in terms of base spell damage, since we're going from an Exalted end-game wand to the MAD Alchemist Ladle, which only comes with like 12 or 13 adaptive spell damage. So we're able to have a good base from Vitality, and then with all those more modifiers, it just absolutely skyrockets the damage. Now again, Autobomber has never been known for its single target damage, but here in the gameplay you can see it is capable of killing off tier 4 𝐒𝐻𝐬, which we do with relative ease and much faster than ever before with the Autobomber. Not the fastest in the game, but definitely fast for an Autobomber. Now what the Autobomber has been known for is being a walking simulator that allows you just to crush all the enemies as you speed run through the maps, and it's still really good for that, and with this build it becomes even better. You don't have to worry about applying all those ailments on normal mobs in order to kill them. You can still just walk through and shield rush through maps and watch everything die as you basically just walk through them with Anomaly and Devouring Orb on autocast. Of course, for the rares and the higher health mobs, you throw down some smites, you get all those ailments on them, and the damage begins to build up really quick. As you can see in this gameplay, we're at 450 corruption and just able to walk through and really not even worry about what modifiers we're choosing, which is a big improvement from the Autobomber 2.0 that I just put on a little bit ago. This has about 2 to 3 times the damage of that, and again, that just allows you to leech more, kill things quicker, and just feels a lot better in the end game. Now with all that in mind, let's go ahead and dive into the skills and just how this whole build works. For skills, I'm running Smite, Rebuke, Devouring Orb, Anomaly, and Shield Rush. For Smite, we've got 3 points in Pillars of Light, 5 points in Sacrifice, 4 points in Atonement, 4 points in Deep Impact, then 2 points in Blinding Flash, which will give you your blind chance. We have 2 points in Holy Fire for some Ignite, and 1 point in Immolate for the Spreading Flames. Now you do get Ignite elsewhere, but the Spreading Flames and the Blind are going to come strictly from this skill itself. Rebuke, which you can also get Spreading Flames in. However, we're not going to go that route. We're going to use it for pure defense, and that way Smite will do the Spreading Flames anyways. So we've got 2 points in Bide, 3 points in Mystic Aegis, 2 points in Regenerative Shell, 4 points in Brave the Elements, 5 points in Augmented Plating, 1 point in Protective Legacy, 1 point in Burst of Speed, and 3 points in Solemn Vow. And basically you're invincible when you have Rebuke up. So this is what you're going to want up when you get to high corruption, and when you're doing any sort of boss fight, Rebuke's going to be what keeps you alive the whole time. For Devouring Orb, we have this set up so that it orbits around you. It'll have the abyssal orbs come off, it'll have some penetration, and then it also, of course, will have a chance for the time rot on hit. So we've got 1 point in Void Adept, 1 point in Hollow Orb, 1 point in Abyssal Emission, 1 point in Chaotic Torrent, 1 point in Dark Moon, 1 point in Distant Satellite, 1 point in Abyssal Rush, 1 point in Cosmic Impact, 2 points in Sightless Star, 5 points in Extinction. Remember, the hit damage with the orb itself is a big factor for our total damage output, 5 points in Rift Caller, and then 1 point in World Rot for that time rot chance, as well as increased duration. Then for Anomaly, Anomaly is going to be the only thing that has a source of Void Res Shred. Now, you can on the Black Sun timeline get that, but I would rather get the spell damage leeched as health for survivability, so Anomaly will be the only source of the Void Res Shred that we have. with 1 point in Void Touched, 1 point in Immediacy. It'll also put Time Rot on the enemies when we use it. 1 point in Time Bubble also will give slow stacks and then your Void Res Shred stacks per second whenever they're in the Time Bubble. 5 points in Decimation, 5 points in Temporal Mastery, 1 point in Time Lord, 1 point in Manipulation, 2 points in Swift Rest, 3 points in Time Eater, and the last point in Void Maul. And then for Shield Rush, which is just our movement skill, we've got 6 points in Rush Mastery, 2 points in Protective Speed, 3 points in Warrior's Entrance, 5 points in Consuming Path, 1 point in Dark Rush, 2 points in Void Breaker, 1 point in Descent of the Void, and 1 point in Dark Regression. Again, a lot of these points don't matter. You can move them around as you like. The only thing you really need is that Dark Rush so that you don't have to have a shield to be able to use it. Then for passives, we got 20 points in the base Sentinel class, with 2 in Juggernaut, 8 in Fearless for that Vitality, which is base damage for us as well as gives us health and some resist, 5 points in Armor Clad, and 5 points in Time and Faith, 0 points in the Forge Guard, 6 points in the Paladin, with all 6 in Defiance for that Attunement and Elemental Resist. We basically just want the Elemental Resist that helps us cap them out. You can put more points in here if you'd like. You could cap out the Defiance and work towards getting Blinding Light for some more blind chance as well as Endurance. However, most of our points were better spent inside the Void Knight Mastery, which we have 87 points, 10 of them in Abyssal Endurance, 6 in Temporal Corruption, 6 in World Eater, 1 in Void Corruption, 8 in Void Bolts, 10 in Future Strikes, so that we have the Future Strikes guaranteed on every hit we do, 5 points in Renouncement, 10 points in Eternal Form, 5 points in Echoing Strikes, 10 points in Time Legion, another Time Rot chance for us, 1 point in Avatar of Regret, and 15 points in Dread. The 10 points in Future Strike, you don't have to have all 10 here. I just went with it. You could take a couple out and put them into Paladin for the Elemental Resist, or take some more of those out and work towards that Blind and Endurance if you'd like. I just didn't need it on this build. For my character sheet, as you can see in the gameplay, these are the stats that I have. We've got just over 3,400 life. We're still working on some of our resistance. We're a little shy on physical and cold, just about capped on void, necrotic, and poison, and we are capped on lightning and fire. We do have our 100% critical strike avoidance. We are almost capped on endurance. And then for our damage types, nothing super special. Obviously, void damage being the main thing that we're stacking, along with critical strike multiplier. We do have a high amount of critical strike chance. You can see my spell crit is 53%, but that actually goes up with what we get out of Anomaly. So with the time bubble active, we're almost at 70% crit with our good old spells that we do. For gear, this is where things get a little bit more complex. On the Rhaegor Autobomber, we don't use any uniques. There are some that you can use. However, here on this build, one obviously being the MAD Alchemist Ladle, which is the spoon wand that we have here, is pretty mandatory for the way that we have this build set up. So you're definitely going to want it. You don't have to have the LP. We did have a 2 LP. I was trying to get some more ailments. I ended up rolling critical strike chance with critical strike multiplier, which also synergize really well with this build. So those work just as well as getting a couple more, say chill or ignite on hit. Any of those will also work. The other uniques that I'm running on this build, we have an Oshirion because it's the only area that I can actually get chill on hit, since I can't get it on my weapon or didn't roll it on my weapon. So the Oshirion gives us chill on hit. It also gives us shock on hit, which is really good because getting shock on hit not only gives us 8% more thanks to the ladle, we also get 1% more damage per stack of shock on the enemy from this in itself. So a little bit more of a damage boost. For the LP on it, I got mana regen and endurance, obviously not the best. Could have got void damage increase, critical strike chance, or health. All of those will also work, as well as if you need a resistance, you can get it there as well. A Siphon of Anguish, which gives us void damage leeches health, which is huge for us. It also gives us move speed, and this is also where you're going to get the Doom on hit. The only place to get Doom is either going to be on the boots, the Apothymol weapon, or on the rings. In this case, the ring. Getting a 2 or 3 LP would obviously be better than a 1 LP such as I have, but the health is nice. And then of course we have the Sentinel Relic Weaver's Will item, the Code of the Erased Sentinel, and this gives you +1 to all the Sentinel skills, which is why I had 21 points for each of them. It also gives us increased armor armor, which is huge for our defense, and then percentage of armor mitigation also applies the damage over time, which is also big because we don't have any damage over time reduction anywhere in our passives or gear, so getting that is really going to help you survive, especially in the high corruption or against bosses that have dots. Now, I had 20 Weaver's Will on this. We ended up getting Shield Bash, which we don't need, but we did get Void Damage and Void Resist, which were pretty nice and synergized well enough that I decided to wear this instead of a crafted item that had a high amount of health on it. For everything else on our gear, you want as much vitality as possible. Echo damage when a skill echoes is really nice, and then of course just get as much health as you can. On the chest and helm, you can also get increased void damage and flat spell void damage, which is really nice. But again, get vitality and health on everything that you can. That's going to give you the most damage, since that vitality is base spell damage for your void skills. For the catalyst, you also get spell critical strike chance base here. The other thing you get is the int, and the int is nice because it will give you some additional cast speed as well as mana when you use a potion. So if you're having any sort of mana issues, having some int so that you can get some mana back when you use a potion will help, but of course probably won't solve your mana issues if Devouring Orb is too expensive or you're casting it too often, which can happen, which is why I have mana regen on a couple of items. Then for idols, there's a few things that you can do for idols. You can go just straight vitality on everything. However, we kind of changed that up a little bit. We wanted the echo damage. Since the echo damage, all of it stacks together as a straight multiplier at the end, it's nice to get a ton of it. So you can get a nice hybrid idol that gives you echo damage when a skill echoes on top of increased void damage, which is nice. You can also get, on the 1x3s, your chance to ignite and your chance to bleed while at high health. This is where I get my bleed and ignite from, although we do get some ignite inside the Smite tree, but this is where all the bleed comes from. Now, I am wearing a 1x2 idol. If you don't have an Oshirion, you can definitely get shock on hit on a 1x2 idol, and that'll give you the shock that you need. For me, I just have a hybrid health idol, but feel free to move your idols around, flip-flop them to get the elements on hit that you need or the defenses that you need. Again, just going straight vitality on everything is also really good. It's going to give you a bunch of base damage. You'll only be missing out on a couple of ailments, which you could get elsewhere, such as in the Forge Guard tree for the ignite and the bleed. But here, I have it this way just because it seemed to be working really, really well. For blessings, like I said, on the Black Sun, I have percent of spell damage, leeches health. That's for my survivability. We leech a ton back because we are squished. We take some big hits. It's nice to get all of that back right away. You can get Void Rest Shred instead if you want. Also, on the last two timelines, I have increased armor and flat armor from the Heroic timeline. You can get physical res shred or other shreds, which will give you that 8% more damage per which one of those you go for. Again, we just wanted to stay tanky. We sacrificed that little bit of extra damage we would have got for more survivability, especially since this increase in flat armor is not only a huge amount, but a percentage of your total armor also applies to dots. So for survivability reasons, we went with that. And then I also grabbed a critical strike avoidance. After that, you can get anything you want. I've been hunting down for body armors. I really like to get a Titan Heart for some other builds I have in mind, but you can do whatever else you want with all the rest of the blessings. And then for how to play this build, so I always put Anomaly and Devouring Orb on autocast. After that, you shield rush around the map, you rebuke whenever you're expecting a big hit or dodging, trying to take the hit from a boss mechanic, and then just smite enemies whenever you like if something's got a lot of health or if you want some mana back. Now, as you can see, just with these alone, without me doing anything, we're already applying almost all of our elements, a good 75% of them. Smite has a couple of things in it that's going to apply a couple more. The Time Bubble does the Void Res Shred. But you basically get all of them just from having the enemy inside your time bubble and from having the Devouring Orbs hit them. But once you start smiting away as well, you'll notice that you get all of them and you're going to be sitting at 14, 15, 16 of those elements almost at all time, which is really nice. You're going to do some big hits. You can see here that some of my biggest crits are doing 150 to 250k damage, which is really, really nice for the Autobomber. Much better than it was before we switched over to being MAD. That's going to be it for this guide. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, leave comments below with anything you'd like to see improved. I'm going to leave you guys with some gameplay. As always, stay safe and enjoy.